Hi, I'm Caitlin. My topic was unemployment insurance, and I found some articles on gendered unemployment insurance. So, my first article was about unemployment in West Virginia, and the three things that made you ineligible for unemployment were monetary disqualifications, separate issue disqualifications, and non-separation issue disqualifications. Monetary disqualifications basically just mean if you didn't make enough money, or you didn't make enough money in the right amount of time, or you just didn't make enough to requalify. So an example of this in West Virginia would be a person needed to make $2,200 in the first four of the last five completed quarters. So if they didn't make the $2,200 at all, then they don't make enough money. If they made the $2,200 but they didn't make it in the first four quarters, then they get disqualified. And then obviously if they didn't make enough to requalify, then they don't requalify. About 3% of West Virginia workers failed to meet this requirement, and analysis indicated that unemployed women, people of color, younger and low-income workers were most likely to fail this requirement. A separation issue would have been quitting voluntarily or due to retirement, or if you were basically fired due to misconduct or aggravated or gross misconduct. About 5.4% of unemployed West Virginia workers lost at least 1 week of their unemployment due to these issues. A non-separation issue disqualification would have been if you weren't able or you were not available for work, you couldn't meet the reporting requirements, you were only partially employed, you weren't registered for work, you were receiving annuity or a pension pay, or you failed to accept suitable work. And about 3% of unemployed West Virginian workers lost at least 1 week of their unemployment due to these issues. So what made it harder for women specifically to meet the monetary requirement was just because they're held responsible for domestic labor and child care. So because of this, they basically have to choose between working fewer hours and having less of an income, or enduring greater stress due to working and having to take care of a child. And then when a woman's divorced, they have even less of a chance of being able to hold a job because they then become solely responsible for their children's well-being, meaning they don't have any help for child care. When they're not at work, they have to pay for everything. They have to make sure their children are going to school and all of that stuff. Jobs that aren't covered by unemployment insurance, like domestic labor or self-employment or a non-profit organization, like a religious group or just anything that usually takes care of people, and they just don't, like, the company doesn't make a profit from that. They're disproportionately filled by women, and these factors, like, all put together means that women make less on the hour than men do, which makes it much, much harder for women to meet the monetary requirement for unemployment. So my second article was on a study in the Netherlands, and this study is pretty old at this point. It started in the 80s, and it lasted about 20 years. They did a survey every 2 years that covered about 2,000 households. And in this study, they examined how the three reforms that happened during this time period affected men and women differently. So in this results for this study, they found that there just wasn't that big of a difference between the sexes. And then when they did a sensitivity analysis, and took out the older and the lower skilled workers, the differences actually disappeared entirely. And overall, the findings were that the reforms affected the genders quite similarly. Thank you.